My battery's running low, so I'm going to keep the chitter chat to a minimum. Tonight I want to work on putting conduit around some of this cabling. So the first set, if I can get my light out of the way, first set is going to be the cables that run into the main service area. However, I've just discovered, best laid plans and all, I've just discovered that the conduit is wider than the hole I've drilled. Now, in order to get all those cables out so I can just widen that hole, I have to unplug some of the cables from the actual connectors because the connectors are too big to go through that hole. I don't want to make the hole massive, so that's always going to be an unfortunate feature of this. I'm going to quickly undo the two connectors that really need doing, which is this one and the one down here, and once they're disconnected from the actual connectors, all the cables should pass back through the hole and we can make it slightly wider. Okay, it's been a good hour's work, but I haven't tried starting it yet, but I'm quite pleased with the way it's turned out so far. So this connector here was originally further down the line, and I've switched it so it's up under the seat, which will make life a lot easier for me. It's one of the things I was slightly worried about. We've got the conduit that comes through. I've drilled the hole slightly larger, just about another 2mm larger, and it comes through nicely. All the cables are back reconnected, and then under here you can see that the main conduit comes out from under the seat and down, round, and disappears under there, and it does actually terminate just out of sight, so nicely tucked away. So I'm not going to continue tonight, but tomorrow's job will be to conduit these up and also to deal with the cables that run down behind the tank. Another hour's work, and we're starting to come together with hiding all the cabling in this conduit. Again, it's very garish. Not 100% happy with certain areas, like the termination of this particular pink conduit. I think I should have left it longer and then tucked it up behind. It looks like a bit of a bodge, but, well, it is a bodge. What do you expect? So yeah, at least it's you don't see loose cables, or at least you don't see too many. There is, yeah, those are the LED lighting cables. So, but they're subtle enough, you probably wouldn't notice them most of the time. I've got the checker plate that has arrived now, and this morning's plan was to make a cardboard template to go in this space here. One of the issues I had was that these two cables were running over the top of this pipe, so it's a simple case of just running them under the pipe. However, not so bad with the throttle, although that was a bit of a fiddle. The brake cable, the rear brake cable, has required quite a lot of work. It's at its maximum tautness, really, I suppose. If I'm on full right lock, the cable itself is tight. So, well, it's not so tight that it affects the brake, but it's bloody ugly and bloody annoying, and there's nothing I can do about it because this is the maximum length of cable I've got. I don't know if this is the sort of thing I can have made a couple of inches longer, but it's certainly something that is going to irritate me unless I get it sorted. This does mean, however, that I can actually put the plate in there today. It does work, it's just annoying. So the cable goes limp when I'm on full left-hand turn, but on full right the thing is pretty tight. So anyway, that's a problem to overcome at a later date. It's not something that should affect the build for the time being, and who knows, I may just ignore it in the future. Cardboard dolly, which we'll use to mark out and cut the floor plates out of. I'm using a piece of plate steel, the one I incorrectly ordered, as a guide for the angle grinder to cut through the steel, so we should get some nice straight lines from it. Okay, so the measurements were correct. It fits perfectly in its little aperture. Now I need to make some tabs under here that allows me to bolt it to. I may actually run steel bands across underneath just to support it. This is after all aluminium, so despite the fact it's 3mm thick, it may have a bit of flex in it, so there's no harm in supporting it. I do need to tidy the edges of this plate up where I've cut it with the angle grinder, but they're very straight. I'm really pleased with it. I will either use an angle grinder on there, which might be a bit aggressive, with a flapper disc just to round the edges off, or I may use the newly purchased power file, which I've used actually today to grind off some of the high points on this tube here, which seem to work really well, and actually seems to depaint stuff really nicely. So I think we might be seeing a bit more of that tool in the near future. Nice, I like that. Consistent and uniform. Okay, I've marked out the size of the piece of steel that I need to go across as straps, and I'm going to cut them. They are going to be oversized, but that's been deliberate so that I can just fettle them down to fit in the areas I want them to be. So I've now cut off the side rails. I'm ditching the idea of having running boards. We're just going for a more sleek looking design. They're roughly cleaned up now. The undersides will need sorting out later on when I get the frame apart. Got a slight nick in the tube there that'll need welding up. But other than that, it's not bad. So yeah, so the next job, now that these brace bars are in and the side bars are off, is to fit the aluminium plate, clamp it down and then drill it for bolting down. So I have drilled and fitted this foot plate. I've taken time with a Dremel to actually remove the material with the actual checker plate studs, or whatever these things are called, checker plate grips. So at least the Allen key heads are sitting flush to give them a lower profile, so they're not sitting up all goofy. I'm going to take some meths and just clean off those pen marks. But now the plate is pretty solid. We haven't got any vibration or tinniness that I was hoping we would avoid, which is good. So that's pretty solid. Unfortunately, the weather today is awful again, and I'm forced to be working outside, which is making my life misery. But you know, you only get so many weekends, so got to make the most of it. And I don't want to be grinding and welding inside the shed, as my other bikes are too precious to get covered in crap. I've had enough. The weather's terrible. I'm going in. I think I'm just going to call it quits. But I'm pleased with the way that looks now. Much neater without the sideboards. Anyway, enough of my ramblings. Happy New Year.